We are live this time.
Yay.
I didn't fuck it up.
Yay.
So,
Uh,
yes,
So how are you?
I'm okay. We got we started on the internet stuff today, so the kids got their own. I don't have any right now. I'm pirating off Steve's because when we moved our modem over to the place where it had been for 10 years, it no longer would talk to the Wi-Fi in that wall. It's only
Okay.
we only moved it a year ago. It's not even like it's been that long. So I called them and they're like, well, there's an outage in your area. And I go, yeah, but that's not what this is from. So they're sending somebody out tomorrow. So I'm just pirating off Steve right now.
All right. Well, hopefully they can get it worked out.
Yeah. At least it's tomorrow and not like Monday or something. So
The blue light in your headphones
yeah.
is like lighting up the purple in your hair. It looks like your
Yeah.
hair is glowing.
That's the earpiece. I don't know why it does that. I had no clue. Deligracy had them, so I bought them
You're so funny.
because I like her.
Yeah, I know.
So they missed good shit last night. I don't know if we can recreate that.
We could try. We could try. Hey, Roots. Been a good girl. So, what did we start talking about first?
Well, we talked about what the difference between empathy and what an empath is, and how being an empath does not mean that you are this psychic vampire. You said it nicer than I'm saying it again. And that the key of being to being an empath is that you can redirect energy that people are giving off. So if somebody's in a mood or whatever,
Right.
you're not going to just take that shit on.
I think you started out with asking why did I think so many people said I'm an empath, or why they claim to be an empath. And my answer to that is because most people are confused about what being an empath really is, with just having empathy for other people. Because I mean, most people, other than, you know, psychopaths or clinical narcissists,
Are really new witches who think they know it all already.
No, most people have an ability to empathize with other people. You know, we learn from early on that, you know, to pick up signals that might not even be conscious signals from other people about how they're feeling. And, you know, that empathy is the ability to not only just recognize it, but to put yourself in their shoes and experience it as well. And a lot of people think that that means, oh, I can walk into a room and know what that person is feeling, and now I'm feeling it too. That means I'm an empath. And that's not really what being an empath is. Being an empath is walking into a room, knowing what that person is feeling, and changing their mood with a direction of your energy.
Right.
Verbal or not. Sometimes you don't even have to engage with the person. If you have that ability, you can change their mood.
Right.
That is what being an empath really is, not just accepting other people's emotions bombarding you,
right,
and taking those on as your own, which is often I'm just saying that because that's often what people I talk to mean when they say I'm an empath.
So really it's a lot like opinions. Just because somebody has one doesn't mean that you have to necessarily associate yourself with it or agree with the opinion. So just because somebody's got some kind of weird energy going on, I mean, I've like been at places. One particular situation, it always seems to happen at bars. Bars are like the worst place. So, but I still love them, the skinnies. But I remember being out at Sam's on the Water with a bunch of people one time, and the energy was strange. And so I kept to myself there. And I had somebody tell me that I was not open to people because I sucked everything up around me just to keep all of whatever was going on around me off of me. And that kind of irritated me, but that, I mean, that didn't make me an empath. That just makes me sensitive and intuitive to what's happening around me. And there are certain people, I don't want them to touch me. And sometimes though they might come, I might at one time or later that day or the next day see the same person and be okay with touching them. There's stuff about them at any particular moment, or it could be me that has the issue. It's my energy, and I don't want to be mixing that stuff. So I think it's a lot like that. I think you do sense shit, but that doesn't not, I mean, you have to like understand that you're just being intuitive.
Yeah. Well, yes, that is correct. The I mean, energy tends to have a life of its own, so to speak, even though it's not really alive.
Yeah.
It's it
Yeah.
undirected energy can affect you in unexpected ways. So that's why one of the first things that you learn when you start studying magical practices, which are basically revolve around energy and making it do stuff that you want it to do, one of the first things that you should be taught is how to protect yourself from either directed malicious energy or undirected energy that could do anything.
Yeah.
you know
Because when people are
it,
drinking, especially in those bar situations, I mean, they don't call them spirits for nothing. It makes
yeah.
people do stuff that they wouldn't normally do, and be less inhibited than they would normally be. And so sometimes the stuff that they're throwing out, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna sit on. I mean, I've like physically moved people. God looked at my friends and taken like the person that was on my left, and they get up to go to the bathroom, and then I look at everybody and go, okay, let's do this, and I'm going to go down here, and everybody's going to move up, and I'll be here, and then that other person that was at the end now will be next to this person, because I'm not going to eat at the buffet that this person's setting for me. I'm just not going to do that. Lynn's saying, Lynn Garthwaite is in the room, and she says, my next door neighbor has a very dark energy, and everyone who meets him feels it. What do you think about that?
Well,
We sort of talked about this last night too. We had this whole conversation yesterday, by the way, Lynn, and didn't record any of it. Just
yeah. And by the way, I cannot see comments, so I'm relying on Michelle to tell me what you guys say.
There's only her in the room right now, so
okay,
that's it.
So here's the thing, going back to empathy for a minute and being an empath. Everybody has the potential to be an empath, meaning the potential to redirect other people's energy and protect yourself from other people's energy. So, this neighbor that you have that, you don't gel with their energy well, you can find books or a teacher to teach yourself, energy work, how to shield, how to protect yourself from that. And, depending on the ethics of the situation, how to direct his energy somewhere else.
Yep.
So,
it's creepy dark, she says.
If somebody is creepy and it's dark and whatever, if they're not hurting anybody, though, I would hesitate to get involved with that, because one of the first things that I teach when I have students that want to learn stuff is ethical principles, and one of which is responsibility for self. So I don't care what you do, as long as you're willing to accept the consequences of what you do. So it's not some other spirit made me do it, and now I'm not responsible for it.
No.
Whatever you do, you're responsible for. So if you decided, this creepy guy, I don't really like his energy, I'd like to change it, and you go ahead and do so, you have to accept the consequences of that, good or bad. Your manipulation of his energy could mean he suddenly becomes a super nice guy, his whole life changes, and he's, happy and everybody around him likes him now. Or it could, have an unexpected consequence, and you just have to live with that consequence. But as long as you're willing to accept responsibility for whatever happens, I think that is the ultimate guide in life.
So
be responsible for yourself.
So first I'm going to tell you that she says she has wards up, and Susie McAnally has just joined the room.
Hi, Susie.
There's that what you just said about you can do what you want to do, but there's consequences to what you do. That's where the difference between witchcraft and Wicca come into play too.
Yes.
So, because I have thrown some shit at people when I felt the need to do that. I have also slung what they threw at me right back at them as well. And I don't have any problem doing what I do. Now, I'm very careful about how I word things and what I say. And sometimes, and I even have wards up around my house that will make you physically ill if you're thinking about coming over here and your intentions aren't good. Not where you die or you have to go to the hospital, but maybe you're just going to have diarrhea really bad and you can't just get off the toilet for several hours. I mean, that's the shit that I do.
Well, we were talking a little bit about that last night with Wicca and the read, do as you will, harm none, and why that didn't really resonate with me, because it's kind of a cop-out, in my opinion. Do as you will, harm none is a little too simplistic as far as rules go. I'm a big fan of ethics, and I thought that should be a part of my practice, and so I made it a part of my practice. And I found that studying ethics and living by those ethical codes help people make decisions far better than any set of rules or morals could. You can tell somebody, don't eat cheeseburgers on Thursday. Bad. That's a sin. You're gonna, burn. That sin. But
there's also,
you can also, that's also not respecting another person's autonomy. So, that's why you give them ethical tools like, okay, go ahead and do what you want, but accept the consequences for them.
But
be responsible for your own actions.
Ethics are different than morals,
yes.
too. People need to they get those confused a lot. And that actually just came up in my continuing education, believe it or not. I have a whole chapter on ethics, and they go through it very thoroughly about the difference between ethics and morals, and how some things might be ethically okay for you to do as a real estate agent. Morally, they would be wrong for you to do them. But in just life in general and witchcraft, you really can't dictate to another person what is moral and what is not moral. I think Larry Flint pretty much tried to prove that point a whole lot to people in government, that one man's morality is not another man's morality, because somebody, if you ask those
morals are dictated by society. Ethics are more basic than that. They go deeper into the human psyche.
It's a personal belief about how something is, because like Mormon people don't drink, they don't smoke, they dress modestly. And then you got, the Orthodox Greeks that like belly dance and throw their titties out and drink themselves onto the floor on the basement of the church. So, but if you ask both of those people, the Greek lady or the Greek man at the church that's drinking, and then the morally upstanding, conservative Mormon, they both believe in Jesus. You know what I mean? They both think they're Christians.
Well, that's why I said morals are societal. Your group, okay, whatever group you've chosen to adhere yourself to, that group forms morals.
Right.
But things like truthfulness, that's an ethical standard. That's that's not a rule. That's not telling you be truthful. It's just saying truthfulness is recognized as a good thing. So if you are, a truthful person, well, that's great, because then you don't have to remember your lie.
Exactly.
But also people respect you more. And it's just generally regarded worldwide. It's not any particular moral code. It is an ethical standard. I have the elemental tradition has 5. Respect other people's autonomy, meaning don't try to control other people. Be responsible for your own actions, be fair about things, be truthful about things. And those kind of ethics will help you out of any situation. If you have to decide, do I do something against my creepy neighbor or not? Do I not do anything against my creepy neighbor? You go back to those ethics. Okay, am I respecting his autonomy? Maybe, maybe not. But do I need to? That depends on the situation. Has he hurt anybody? Then he doesn't deserve respect.
Right. And whatever you throw at him, he deserves. And Lynn said that, whenever she's nice to him, he comes on to her, which is what I was going to say. Like, so you just don't know if you throw some shit at him, like putting the wards up is one thing, but actually throwing some stuff at him, slinging some magic, picking up your tools, doing whatever you're going to do, you might end up with a stalker. Make this person be nicer. Yeah. Okay.
And that goes back to accepting responsibility. Yeah. You have to be willing to look at the situation on a situation by situation basis and decide, when especially not just in the, because you can decide things the same way in the real world. There's legal or, just mundane things that you can do. But, we're just speaking in the realm of
Right.
energy right now, how you can affect things.
And how you need to think about what you're doing before you start. Well, I mean, because that also goes with slinging around that word empathy. I'm an empath. Are you really? Or are you just the psychic vampire? So you just, I don't know. We talked about this last night too, and this probably makes some people like a little bit angry, and I don't care. Send your cards and letters to somebody else because I don't care. But I think that you see a lot of it with people that are not, I mean, they might not be new, so to speak, but they're new. They haven't really read a lot or been trained a lot, or they think that everything is like Charmed and Sabrina, and that you can just start doing all this stuff. And so and I also think sometimes it's an attention seeking thing, because I mean, we've seen a lot of people over the 20 years that we've known each other that have come into paganism because nowhere else was anybody going to let them in, because they were misfits. And then right away they come in and they're aliens, and they're going to procreate with the rest of the planet to make their alien babies. I mean, so I think that people want, I think that when they first come into it too, especially the craft, Lynn, I think that when some people first come into it, they come into it, like you said last night when we were talking about it, wounded from whatever religion or the family life that they had or whatever. And so now, how best, and I'm sure they're not thinking this consciously, but subconsciously, what can I do that will really shock the fuck out of everybody I know? Maybe I should become a Wiccan. And then right away, I have all these powers. I'm an empath. I can put spells on people. I'm going to like tattoo a pentacle on my third eye, all of that shit.
Yeah. Well, that stems, like you said, from being wounded, and a lot of people who are wounded, the reaction, and you should know this well, the reaction to that being wounded sometimes is anger. So, I cannot tell you how many new to paganism people I have talked to who are very angry towards how they were treated in other religions, or that they were deceived in some way. They feel like the part of their lives or most of their lives was wasted sometime, and that creates a lot of anger. And when you are wounded and angry, the third piece of that is being disempowered. They come and they are like, they've been told for most or all of their life that you have no power. You have to go here and listen to this person, and that person has the power and is going to tell you how to live and what to do. And so that is why the first step often in not just me, I teach this too, but like Scott Cunningham was a very good one for doing this. The first step for a lot of people is just being told, you can do this. You have permission to take over your own life, to be a powerful person and have your own power and use it. But you don't have to wait for anybody else.
But we talked about this too last night, and it needs to be coupled with, that's your personal power. That doesn't mean that you know what you're doing and you're going to go out into a circle and start throwing shit all over the planet at people and not expect that the boomerang effect of what you're doing is going to come back at you. It's just like when we were out at Lorelei's property, and the feud was still going on between us and the Drum Tribe. And it was disgusting to me the energy that we all brought onto that land, because that land was supposed to be sacred, was supposed to be holy, we were supposed to be up there for, you know, drumming and dancing and raising energy. And meanwhile, everybody's like in each other's ears, whispering shit and saying terrible things to each other. I literally went up to that land and I put an offering out on it because I felt terrible because of what I did. So I think that people need to be like fucking careful about, what does that mean when I have personal power? And your personal power is your personal power. Your personal power to choose your style, the way you live your life, your sexuality or non-sexuality, how you identify as whatever gender or no gender that you are, whether you want to use the word fuck or not, whether you want to have children or not. All of those things, that's what people are talking about when you first get into paganism and they start talking about your personal power. It's not picking up your wand of anger and pointing it at somebody and sending out a lightning bolt at them. It's about taking care of you first. And really, to me, before anything else, I was in Christianity for 20 something fucking years, and no one ever told me that I was important, special, and that I mattered. I learned that in paganism, and it took me 20 years to recognize that I needed to work on myself more than I needed to worry about whatever exterior shit was going on around me, because ultimately the only person that you can control is you. Yeah. So more people are, wait, Kristen's here, sup, suda. Susie says wounded people search out faith quite frequently. How many God brothers do you know that found religion after a catastrophe? That's true. And Lynn says, oh my God, you just described my youth. I don't know which part that was, because we lag for you guys, so I don't know what we said. And then Teresa Letts is here, and she said, magic and witchcraft have traditionally been the tools of the otherwise powerless. So we get a lot of folk damaged by the loss of their personal power and sovereignty, and that makes them extra needy. Extra needy is fine. Helping people to find their personal power is important, as long as they understand that their personal power comes from within, but not outside from the wand.
Yeah,
that's how I feel.
I think what the other Michelle is.
So I'm angry, Michelle. This is nice, Michelle. She's going to explain it to you in nicer terms than I just
did. This is kind of stemming from a conversation we had last night too, and it's you know, it's the concern of that conversation was that there's a lot of kind of shiny new penny pagan people that they get a taste of that freedom, and they get a taste of, you know, not having to be told what to do all the time. And
broads finally having their own power and not having just to be told by the deacons and the pastor of the church what's right and what's wrong.
Which is a good thing, but, you know, it's sort of like, you know, the kid that grew up sheltered and all of a sudden has all the restrictions removed. They can, you know, get a little bit full of themselves and start doing things that they might not fully understand the repercussions of, or even, you know, what and how they're doing. So basically, there should be a more of a balance between, here is your freedom, here is your power, go ahead and take it, and okay, yes, go do that, but here's how to actually work on it so you have control of it and you know what you're doing, and you're not going to get yourself hurt or in trouble, or somebody else hurt or in trouble by doing things you don't really know what you're doing yet.
Kristen, you can say whatever you want to say whenever you want to say it. Just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you have nothing to add to this conversation. And Teresa says, any needy expresses in a wide variety of ways: lying, stealing, domination, and more. This is true. Yelling and threatening to burn the house down. That's one way.
Yeah.
I think that's because I think a lot of our problems, and there's nothing that we can do about this unless we're willing to be teachers, and I'm not. Michelle might be, but I personally don't want any students. I don't want to run a coven. I don't want to do any of that shit. But I think most of our problems stem from the fact that we don't have enough instruction from other people that have been doing it longer and understand what the ramifications of all of it is, and work on people to help them work on themselves first before they start showing them the other stuff. I mean, if you think about people that took people on into temples thousands of years ago to be the priestesses of whatever god or priests of whatever god, they brought these people in as little fucking kids. And I'm sure the little fucking kids were like bringing sandals to people, fetching water for people, going to the market and bringing the dove back that they were going to sacrifice, all of that shit before they were ever allowed to see what was going on behind the curtain. We don't do that in paganism. We don't have a board where we can go and go, look, them people over there, like I told you last night, let loose a whole bunch of fucking demons, or not demons, but dragons, and left people in a meditative state and walked away from them and came outside and asked us what to do about it. That's the shit that we don't have in our religion as pagans. We don't have, like, okay, who do we go to about this? You know, there's nobody to call. There's no one to talk to, you know?
Yeah, well, you know, there's lots of information out there, but I mean, I stopped buying any sort of books
years ago.
25 years ago was the last time I bought any type of pagan book, because they are very much the same, and they're all very basic, and they're all very you know, here's the basics of how to do something. And even the ones that claim to be beyond that often are just telling you the same thing and packaging it different.
That's it.
You know?
That's it. It's like the Harlequin romance is what paganism is. It's the same thing. Just like fill in different blanks for different things that you want to put in there. It's the same stuff.
It really is just a matter of, you know, learning as you go, and it takes a long time and a lot of dedication on your, you know, like just going back to being an empath for a second. I said this last night too. People have this kind of theory that, you know, being an empath is something that you're born with or born without, and that's not true. Most humans have a basic capacity for empathy, and therefore have a basic capacity to become
that's why
empathic.
We don't like fucking suffocate our babies when they're screaming in the crib. Otherwise, you know, in the very beginning of time.
That's empathy. I'm talking about being empathic.
Okay, all right.
So if you want to be able to actually access that energy on a more conscious level and use it for your benefit, that requires knowledge to figure out how to do that, and then a whole lot of practice to basically build up your empathic muscle.
Yep.
And figure out how to do that. And the same goes for any type of energy work. I cannot tell you how many circles I have gone to that were kind of, you know, devoid of any type of energy building.
It was just theatrics. It was like a whole big play that you went to.
Which, you know, can be cool, and you can learn stuff that way too. But to me, the foundation of my practice is energy, pulling it up from somewhere and telling it what I want it to do and sending it out there. And if that's missing, I don't see the point. You know, why are you doing this?
I don't think
what you're doing.
I don't think they know why they're doing it. That's the whole thing. I think that they don't really believe what they're doing. I don't think they believe that you
taught
that this is okay. Abracadabra, bippity boppity boo. Well, and I don't think they believe it.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know if I agree. I think a lot do have. Okay, well, we'll disagree on that one, because I think people really do, you know, have
not all people, but I think some people come in there and don't believe the shit that they're saying.
I'm sure there are some. What gets me, though, is the amount of books that explain how to do a ritual and will say even, you know, like you are always fond of saying, cast a circle in the usual way.
Yeah.
Well, they'll say, raise energy and spend zeros, not a nothing time explaining how you actually go about doing that, what it actually feels like, what you should experience. You know, that is missing. Like from 90% or more of pagan books, they talk about energy and explain nothing about
they
it.
don't. And you know what's really funny? Here's what I think. If I was going to teach a coven again or take on any students, I would take them directly to the Orthodox Church in the early morning hours before the service starts, when the chanters are in there and they're running around with the incense, and I'd be like, they're casting the circle and raising some energy right now. And in a minute, once we've all gathered in here and everyone's in and the services begins, that's when the priest is directing all that shit. But them chanters, they're the ones that are raising the energy and starting the circle of power that's going to happen inside of that church. That's raising energy.
Yeah. One of the best books, one of the only books that really describes that well, the energy involved in ritual and how it's built through ritual, was Isaac Bonowitz. He wrote Neo-Pagan Rites. I think that's the name of the book. Good book. He explains a lot about the different parts of ritual and why certain things work to build energy and why other things that people, you know, sometimes will put a ritual together and it fails or there is no energy, why that sometimes happens. And it's one of the only pagan books I've read that really goes into detail about, you know, this is what you should feel when we talk about energy, and this is some ways that you can build energy.
Right.
So I like that book.
I bet you can't find it anymore. I bet you can't. He's been, how long has he been dead? He's been dead for so long. It's got it, you know, like, even like you brought up Scott Cunningham. Susie probably has no fucking clue who Scott Cunningham is. You know what I mean? Because and honestly, if you still have any of his books, you should pull them out and just start looking at them, and you kind of go, "Oh my god, this is so cheesy." But
that was very cheesy, but I still loved him.
Cheesy, but for real, that was how I learned. I read, the first was that Silver Raven Wolf book, To Ride a Silver Broomstick. And she did the same thing, to cast your circle in the usual manner. And I remember sitting in my room going, the fuck does that even mean? What kind of, like, is it a lasso I have that you throw out there and there's my circle? You know, like I was so totally lost. And I don't remember if it was Gwen who turned me on to him or what, but that started my quest for pagans in Pasco County, because I didn't know what the fuck any of that meant.
Yeah.
So I was going around trying to find pagans to help me in Pasco County, and there was nobody. There was just Tim with the stone circle. Did you ever go to his store when he had the stone circle up by? Okay. And then I went in there and I saw him and I'm like, oh, this is so great. And then the store was closing down. And I went in there like 2 weeks before it closed down. And I said, so do you know any covens where I can learn anything from? And he was like, I know them, but they're oath bound, so I can't introduce you to any of these people. And I'm like, what the fuck do people do when they don't know what's happening? And honestly, that right there was like a fucking blessing in disguise, because that was Angela's Eagle Songs fucking coven he was talking about.
Yeah.
And now that I'm like this far removed from it all, the fucking balls you have to call yourself Angela's Eagle Song. Like, seriously. You're going to be like the angels that an eagle song. Okay. That was angry Michelle. Nice Michelle's like, oh God, I can't believe she's saying this shit right now. What if somebody hears it? I don't really care. I said it before 1 million times. And who's going to hear it? People I'll have to paddle over from the island of Misfit Toys to get this fucking recording.
Well, we talked a little bit about that last night too, about how especially when somebody is new to paganism and new to feeling their own empowerment, how that can kind of spill over into hubris and people, and that's just normal. I think that's just part of the journey, of self-discovery, and all that other stuff is kind of like going through a phase where you're feeling, invincible and full of yourself. And it takes a while for a lot of people to get knocked down out of that phase. And that's when you really start learning. When you step past that, okay, I came into this pissed off and angry at my former religion, or hurt or searching or whatever, however you came to it. And then you get over that. And then a lot of people go through a period of, oh, this is pretty cool. I'm feeling my Wheaties. I'm a big badass.
I get that.
And you go through that phase. And then when you get over that, usually it's because somebody's like dotted you in the eye. Metaphorically.
Let me help you off this pedestal, and they kick it out from underneath you. That for sure happened to me.
Oh, I might not, all the stuff that I know, even though it's a lot, might not be everything. Maybe I should, learn some shit and practice.
Maybe I should just shut my mouth for a few minutes and sit over here in my house and hope everybody forgets that I said any of the shit that I said. That did happen to me for sure. It did. I'm like, oh God, I hope they don't ever talk to me again. And then after a while, you realize I ain't the only one that does that. You're not the only one.
And not everyone goes through the same stages. It's just, that's just kind of a general observation.
It was, and the worst advice I ever got. I love her to death, but still, Fallon's like, after that year and a day, she's like, you should start your own group. What a bad idea that was. That's like kicking out a 15-year-old and saying, here's your apartment and the keys to the car.
Yeah.
Raise the roof. I'm a high priestess now.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, actually, that is the thing about being a high priest or a high priestess. We didn't talk about that last night, but here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so most of the witchcraft traditions, most of the ones that fall under Wicca in particular, your Gardnerians, the Alexandrians, the Georgians, whatever.
Covens.
Yes. All of those tend to have, a very structured learning pattern and hierarchy. And the focus is more of a timeline, a linear timeline. You go here, you get through this phase, get through that ritual, get to that initiation, and the end goal at the end of it is boom, you're a high priest or a high priestess.
Give me my
go forth, multiply. and that works. It's fine, but it didn't work for me. I didn't really like that idea that, of
Hyven.
To me, to me, being a high priest or a high priestess is not something that you just claim. It's something that is, kind of given to you by the people that choose to follow you. Because I can call myself a high priestess all day long and have known nothing.
Exactly. Because I did it, so I know it can happen.
Yeah.
And yes, Kristen, we've knocked people down, but mostly we've been knocked down a peg ourselves. Well, not so much Michelle as me. I was the one that really got smacked hard.
Yeah.
It was worth it, though. I learned a lot.
So with the elemental tradition, I decided right off the bat that wasn't how it's going to be, that it would be more the hierarchy, so to speak, would be more circular, learning, doing, going deeper, practicing, so you're constantly in a cycle of learning new things, doing new things, going deeper on those things you've learned, letting them grow, and then coming back to learning. And being a high priest or a high priestess leading a coven, that is entirely dependent on, okay, do you have people that want to learn from you? Do you have people that want to practice with you? And if that's true, then yeah, okay, you're a high priest or a high priestess, because these people have chosen to make you so, not because you decided to call yourself that.
So here's the thing now. That was really cool what you just said. And I'm thinking that could be the basis of
Our L. Ron Hubbard
of our
Scientology
religion we're going to start. so but it's like, but according to the goddess Shonda Rhimes, see one, do one, teach one, like in the hospital at Grey's Anatomy. That's exactly how they taught in the hospital. So the first things that they learned was appendectomies, I guess, because that's the easiest one and probably less chance of killing some motherfucker is doing an appendectomy. So you see one, you watch them do one. So you watch somebody do the ritual. You, as the handmaiden or whatever, as in that circle, then the next time we have ritual, that person that was the handmaid does one, and then they have a handmaid there, and then they start to teach the ones that come along. It's see one, do one, teach one. That would be it. Honestly, that's the way all covens should be run. So says Angry Michelle. I think that would be perfect if people would do it that way, but that's not how it is. It's mostly you sit down, you go there, and we're going to do Wicca 101 again for the 187 millionth time, and then we're going to have some big pomp and circumstance at the end of it, and you're going to get your first degree.
You should think about how many of those times you decided, I'm going to do the Wicca 101 thing again, God, or the basics again, and contrast that with this last year. And what did you learn more? What taught you more?
This last year taught me so much more than I ever learned in any of those covens.
Yeah. And that's usually the way it is when, because before you weren't really empowered.
No.
You were learning about it and you were feeling it sometimes, but you really hadn't grabbed a hold of the reins with both hands of your power, your empowerment to be okay with who you are and what you want to do, and know you can take care of what you need to take care of until, this last year or so. I
need to read some stuff here.
Okay.
So Teresa, I'm going to disagree with you. She says not everyone has the skills for teaching or leading. I don't believe that. I don't believe it, not for 5 minutes. Not that they would have to be, and I'm just saying, in a coven situation where you have a high priestess and a high priest, it's always going to be your high priestess and high priest. I'm not saying that person that's in the coven needs to be the person that's always going to, like, they're going to step in when the high priestess or high priest is gone, or they have any intention of leaving and starting their own coven. I think that they should be able to see, do, and teach just for their own personal knowledge, so they understand what they're doing.
I'll be in the middle ground on that and say that okay, so not everybody has the ability to teach. Yeah, I don't really agree that not everybody has the ability to teach, but some teachers are much better than others.
Absolutely.
So I'll go that route, that, if you feel like you can't teach somebody something, it's either because you lack, you're missing the pieces that you need to teach somebody else, or you lack the confidence to be able to teach somebody else, or your personality just isn't the type of personality that lends itself well to supporting other people and guiding them through learning something.
And honestly, when I say teach one, that's literally while you're doing the ritual and the noob is standing in there that's never done the ritual. they're watching you do the ritual. So they're seeing it, and you're teaching it because they don't have any clue what's happening or how to do stuff. I'm just like thinking back to going to Fallon's house in the beginning at that very first circle that I went to. I had no idea what was happening. She had a handmaid, she had her high priest, and she did the ritual, and there were other bit players, so to speak, in the coven that had certain jobs. I sat back and did what I was told, which was mostly come out here, sit in the circle, and go in this way and walk that way, and then pick a spot wherever you want to sit, put your chair there, but you have to walk in this direction. And then as they all came out, I watched what they did. I watched what Audra, who was the handmaid, did to assist Fallon. I watched what Randy, the high priest, did to assist Fallon, or sometimes he led the ritual, but I saw one. And then she did make us do one of our own. We had to get up and lead a ritual. Everybody that came there, she expected that out of you. And not because she was trying to be an asshole. Now that I understand more about what's going on, she was trying to make us understand so that so we could do it for ourselves. That's the whole point of what you're doing, is to be able to go home and do it by yourself, however you want to do it. And then the part about doing whatever you want is where, like, all right, I ain't gonna like haul out the bath water and put the rosemary in, and I ain't gonna wash my face before I walk into the circle and I'll walk in the correct way, but I ain't doing all that stuff. When I go out into my circle and I want to do some magic, here's all the tools that I need. I might take an Oreo out there to throw for a freaking offering, but here I am, and there's where the magic lay. I am the tools.
And that goes right back to the beginning of the conversation, which is all about empowerment, because people don't. I'm trying to kind of stay away from generalizations, but in general, a lot of people that come to paganism don't understand that they need they need the structure of ritual. They need the confidence that using tools give them. It helps focus for a lot of people when they're using an athame or a wand or a cauldron or whatever. When they have that focus, it helps, until they usually get to a point where they realize that, I don't need this. Or maybe they don't. Maybe, this is their thing. They found a thing that works for them, and they're going to do it that way every time.
Yep.
Because it works.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with that
Not
either.
At all.
I tend to be a pretty creative person, so I like, I probably have never done 2 rituals the same. In like 30 years, I've never done 2 rituals exactly the same. But some people do. Some people do the same exact ritual every time because it works for them.
In British traditional covens, you do it the same way every single time. There's a formula, and you do it that way. It doesn't matter what British traditional coven you're in. It's all very Gardnerian. Yeah. All of it is. And that's another topic for another day. But Teresa said comprehending something and understanding how someone else will comprehend it are different. Well, of course. No one can be inside somebody's head. Yeah. And Kristen said something back a while. It should be earned. I think that was about the thing about am I a high priestess? And yes, it should be earned, and you shouldn't be arrogant and full of yourself and call yourself that just because ain't nowhere else to go. So you're just coming in my backyard, and I'm the high priestess now. And that's exactly how I became a high priestess. Put my crown on. Now I just wear ears.
Yep.
And I do have crowns. Kadea bought me crowns for my birthday. I have a million of them. And sometimes when I'm really sad, I put them on. I'm not even going to lie. I wear them around the house. So yeah. So here's the thing, guys. I don't know how many of you are still in here. And I think there's only like 3 or 4 of you. But we want to do this once a week on maybe twice a week if we get good at it. And so topics, things you want to talk about, things you want to know more about, things, if somebody wants to jump in with us in the conversation, we can put you in the room before we lock it up, and you can talk with us. We're down for that. If there's somebody that you know that would like to do this with us, that would be awesome. Lynn, you would like to do it? You'd like to come in and talk with us, or do you have topics you want to talk about? I don't know what me means, but me is good. Whatever me is, that's good. And then we're going to upload this stuff to the Witch Michelle channel on YouTube, and eventually we're going to learn how to edit so that it's not so straight, all this stuff going off, especially when I'm burping and yawning in the middle of all of it, or trying to eat pumpkin seeds or whatever the fuck else I'm gonna do. And some days I might be a little drunk when we're on here too, and then it will get really out of hand and Michelle will have to try to rein me in. But yeah, I know
you'll have to just translate everything for you.
We do like the angry Obama and happy Obama. Lynn, you're still here, I get that, but did that mean you wanted to like be a part of it if we do that, or you're just saying that I missed you when I said all those people were here? Whatever. But if you have ideas, that would really be great. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about next week. We're going to figure that out. We like this little format because you'll smoke. That's good.
We have these conversations and have had these conversations between ourselves for many, many years. And we just kind of decided that this would be a good way to share our conversations that we have about stuff with the world.
Paganism, witchcraft. Yeah. Sometimes it won't even be about that. It'll be because, right now, if you go out to that channel, mostly what's out there is my shadow work stuff that I've been doing. And I only have a few more.
We'll probably put a bit of other stuff in there, like tarot and things too. We should
do like a monthly reading too for them, just a broad general reading, or maybe even like some of them other broads do with the 3 piles and make them pick their pile.
Other broads.
Yeah, them other broads. So yeah, we'll do that, and maybe we'll even talk about. Michelle's good at herbs. What herbs are good for what things and how to combine them.
Magically, not necessarily medicinally.
Yeah, magically. And I can teach you how to bake some shit. Not just yourself.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're gonna do happy hour now?
I guess I should run over and open up the room over there. Other bullshit. That's it. Sacred bullshit. It's sacred bullshit.
Yes. I'm down. So I gotta go get Holly her meds, and I will meet you over at happy hour in a little bit. Okay.
Peace out.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.